Today I am going to be playing with some meat here, as usual. What I've got are 4 pork tenderloins that I picked up, just a club pack of them, and I am going to start a process of making some cured pork tenderloin, and I'm going to do it 4 different ways. So they're going to get hopefully very, very different flavor profiles. They're going to cure for a few weeks, and then I'm going to wind up dry aging them in my curing chamber just to get the weight loss, just like I've done with my Prisantini, my Capicola, my Lanzas, my Brazola, different stuff like that. I've never tried this with pork tenderloins before, but I don't see why it wouldn't work. The great thing about pork tenderloin is like these were pretty cheap. The 4 of these, it was like 27 bucks or whatever. And that wasn't even on sale. But I'm going to, test it out. So the first move is to just get rid of any silver skin that's on here, because that's not going to wind up tasting all that good in the finished product. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut all of it off, and then we can actually start playing around with these. Alright, so I've taken off all the silver skin. I wound up peeling off as much as I could there, because that connective tissue and whatnot is just really not going to be super edible. Now the other thing I want to do just to kind of prep these is I'm going to cut off some of these significantly smaller portions of the tenderloin. So right about here, I'd say, is where it really started to get narrow. On that one, what do we have here? This one here, again, this tail is just a little too small. This one, let's cut it off here. Anything else to trim for these ones? Just a little bit there. Just a little bit of fat, no problem. I love working in the brewery. Every time somebody uses the washroom upstairs, you get to hear what's going on. Flush. All right, so there's the third one. Now this 4th tenderloin here is kind of a sad little tenderloin. It got cut up there. This tail end is fairly small, and it's just a little bit smaller. But one thing I think I'll make this the tenderloin that I'm going to try to make as spicy as possible, and I think if it's a smaller one to begin with, it might just absorb a little bit more of that heat a little bit better. So it's quite a bit smaller than the others, but I think we'll still be able to use it. All these little offcuts here, I'm going to wind up firing these in a vacuum seal bag with some bacon fat and just some spices, and I'm going to cook it up sous vide and eat them. If you haven't had sous vide pork tenderloin, it is absolutely the best way to eat pork tenderloin, other than hopefully this. I like to cook it at 130 Fahrenheit for an hour or two, and it's still pink, it's buttery, it's just so damn good. Okay, anyway, I'm going to get these things weighed up so that I can start measuring all my ingredients and stuff, and when I come back, we'll be ready to start playing with one of them. Well, pork sword number 1, folks. This one weighed in at 514 grams. To this, so I'm treating this one sort of like a classic Portuguese style one. What I'm going to do with that is I'm adding, and I can put this in the description for the video, but by percentage, 0.25% cure number 2, 2% kosher salt, 2% garlic salt, 3% hot Hungarian, actually, paprika, 3% of red wine, and then 2.5% of a piri sauce. So, I'm basically first concerned here with just getting the cure into this meat tub. I'm going to kind of rub it around, get it all over the meat here initially. Okay, some of it fell over there. Make sure to get all of that cure onto it. Going with that 0.25%, it's a pretty good amount to be using. Not too little, not too much, whatever. You have to be careful with the cure. I'm also going to just put the salt on while it's in here. Give it a nice rub down that way. Now I went a little bit lower on the salt, pardon me, than I might otherwise, and that's because the garlic salt that I'm putting in is salty. Also the, a little bit more here. Also the piri sauce that I'm putting in is quite salty as well. So I didn't want to overdo that. So here's my garlic salt going on. Decent amount of garlic there. I want it to be nice and garlicky. I've got, of course, my paprika, spicy paprika. Get a nice little coat. I really like using the meat tubs for this because I will wind up scraping everything out into the bag just to make sure I'm not missing any of these ingredients with the meat. But it's a good way just to kind of contain the mess. I'm not going to pour in the so this is the red wine, which was like an Australian red blend, and the piri sauce. And the piri sauce was this one here. I actually picked this up in Portugal. It's like super spicy, but also like really flavorful. Also nice and salty. I'm going to add that into the vacuum seal bag here once I've got the pork tenderloin in here. So we're just going to turn off the camera and I'm going to get that into there and make sure to just kind of scoop out any of this residual stuff. And then we'll be ready to, I'll wash this out and we'll be ready to do the next one. All right, so number 2, this one I'm going to actually do sort of a mustardy type pork tenderloin. So this here, again, I'm sticking with 0.25% cure number 2. The salt, though, I've boosted that up. I'm going with 3% kosher salt on this one, and I actually poured the cure and the salt into the same container here, just for ease of distribution. I'm just going to get these all nicely coated with everything. And then for the mustard, what I'm going with is a spicy beer mustard that I made right here. It looks super appetizing, right? So this was made using a what was it? It was a brown ale homebrew. There are brown, black, and yellow mustard seeds. There's mustard powder, all kinds of fun stuff in here. It is nice. It's spicy. Not super hot, but definitely like very mustardy spicy and just really rich and delicious. And there is some sweetness to it as well. So I think it's pretty nicely balanced mustard, which I'm hoping will result in a nicely flavor balanced cured pork tenderloin. So there we are. All right. Again, I'm now going to get this into the vacuum seal bag and sealed up and stuff. And once I have all of them sealed up, I'll show you what they look like. So, all right, there we are. All right, big old experimental pork tenderloin number 3. I'm doing this one sort of a tandoori style, very kind of Indian-inspired, obviously, pork tenderloin. So what I've got for this, again, the 0.25% of cure number 2. This one I'm going with 2.5% kosher salt, and again, the reason to go with slightly lower than perhaps normal salt content is that the tandoori tandoori masala that will be going in this is salty as well. So again, I don't want to, overdo the salt too much and make it unpalatable. So just get this on here. Awesome. Now for the tandoori, so this is 5% tandoori masala and 0.5% of red chili flakes, just to kick the heat up a little bit. That tandoori masala is already spicy on its own. However, I want to make sure that you do get a decent amount of kick off of this one. So I'm hoping that these red chili flakes will help do that for me here. A nice coating all the way around. Oh, it smells amazing. It has been too long since I've made tandoori chicken. Oh man. Okay, so that's there. And then lastly, I've got 5% lemon juice. As I did with the red wine and the piri sauce earlier, I'm going to actually add that directly into the bag once everything's in there. So, all right, let's get this one bagged up. And now for number 4, the sad little pork tenderloin here. It's only 287 grams. I mean, so it's going to be pretty small when we're done after the aging and whatnot. But with this one, I went ahead with, again, 0.25% of the cure number 2. The salt, I put that up to 3% because nothing else that's going in here is salty. I'm using cayenne and chili flakes. So the cayenne I went 1%, chili flakes I went 1.5%. And then I've also got this piri oil that I'll show you in a second. But I guess in the meantime, I'm going to quickly get this cure and the kosher salt onto everything here. Perfect. Give that a little roll around in that stuff. Make sure you get it on everything. Then we're going to add our cayenne and chili flakes. So I'm hoping that this one's going to be just really nice and spicy. That's what I'm going for, just spice. Hot heat, seeing how well it's going to work. I played around with kind of spicier capicolas before, and so far they haven't really been quite as spicy as I was aiming for, but I mean that does make it a lot more palatable for the other members of the family. But this one's all about me. Okay, now I've got this piri piri oil that I picked up in Portugal. This stuff is super hot. You're making a chili. It's just like, you know, a big pot of chili, like 5 drops or something in there, and you definitely know that you've added this spicy stuff to it. So I'm gonna get it all over my hands, which means I'm probably gonna run into trouble later on today. No, don't go and complain like, oh, it's just piri piri peppers or whatever. I mean, I'm not trying to make something where I can't taste the meat or kill myself with the heat here, but I'm trying to make something that's definitely just a nice spicier charcuterie dish. So there we are, nicely coated here with this. I'm going to again get it in the bag, vacuum seal, and when we come back you get to see all 4 of them. Well, as promised, here we are in the order that we made them. We've got the Portuguese, more Portuguese style tenderloin, that spicy beer mustard tenderloin. We've got the Tandoori. Oh, I just love that, like deep kind of burnt orangey red color in there. And then finally that kind of spicy tenderloin that we did there. Awesome. So what I'm going to do is fire these in the fridge. I'm probably going to leave them for about 3 weeks, which is, as usual, kind of more time than it needs to actually cure. But it's going to give it lots of time for these flavors to hopefully absorb into the tenderloins and just wind up with hopefully a really flavorful product even before we start to dry age. So there we are. We will see them in a few weeks. Well, here we are after, it's actually been 4 weeks just because life kind of got in the way. These things just got left aside in my keezer at around 32 Fahrenheit. And yeah, I'm actually hoping that extra time in there, it certainly didn't need that for the curing, but just for actually getting these flavors into the pork tenderloins, hopefully that will make a bit of a difference for me here. So I'm flying solo today, so I'm going to have to do some of this just sort of in steps, and I can't actually film everything. But my first move here is going to be to remove each of these from their packages and just give them a really nice rinse off. And then once they're all rinsed, here I've got 2 different ways that I'm going to wrap them before they go in the curing chamber. First of all, I've got a couple of sheets of pasted hog skin, and then I also have some collagen casings. So I've got 2 different ways that I'm going to try it out, which will be kind of a cool little experiment. And when I come back, these will be rinsed and ready to wrap. Well, after a nice rinse off, we've got the 4 different flavors here. So in order, we've got the spicy beer mustard, the hot and spicy, then the Portuguese, and then this funky colored one here is the Tandoori tenderloin. So the next move here is to simply lay out, see, this one here is one of the collagen casings, and the collagen ones are going to go for the 2 shorter ones, which will be the mustard and the hot and spicy. I'm going to lay them out, I'm going to roll them up so they're completely covered, trim off any excess, and then just with the hog rings and the hog ring pliers, just seal up the 2 ends. Again, since I'm here by myself, I can't very well do that and record this at the same time, so you'll get to see what this is like once they're all done. If you want to check out this process in sort of more detail, step by step, you can check out my videos on dry aging Lonza and capicola and Prisantini, stuff like that, where I actually go through the whole process on video. So we will see this once they are wrapped and ready to net. Here we are after wrapping. So the 2 on the left here, again, are using the collagen casings, and the 2 on the right are using the pasted hog skin. This is the first time I've used them side by side like this. I found just handling-wise, the collagen casings were easier to cut, a little bit easier to manipulate. However, the pasted hog skins actually adhered a little bit easier, I think because they're a little bit drier. They kind of stuck to the tenderloins just a little bit easier. But again, a little bit more difficult to cut, and when you cut them, they just trim off any excess. They were kind of wanting to split and kind of go different directions. So the collagen was a little bit easier to work with, but I'll be curious to see how they actually hold up to the dry aging process. So now, after I trim off a little bit of the excess from these pasted hog casings, I'm just going to use my netting here, get these things all netted up, tied up, and ready to weigh and then hang. Okay, all netted up here and tied up. I've got my little hooks on here already, stainless hooks, so I can get them into the curing chamber and hang them nicely. I also have labeled each of them with the original weight as well as my target weight, so I'm shooting for around a 35% weight loss on these. I think that should be nice. They'll be nice and firm, but not like super rock hard or anything like that. So yeah, next step is I'll get these hung and I'll show you what they look like then. Whoa, look at those guys dance. Now, I have to admit that I lied to you. I also actually gave them a light spritz with some vinegar just before putting them in here, just because I wasn't too terribly concerned about sanitation or anything during any of that wrapping or netting process or anything like that. So I just wanted to eliminate the possibility for any kind of nasty mold to take off in there. Yeah, but the tenderloins are dancing. Got a couple little goodies down there too, hanging out. But essentially I've got the curing chamber set at 75 relative humidity, 75%, and then in the mid 50s Fahrenheit, which will be perfect for letting these guys just stay at a good temp, let them lose some water weight there, get to where they need to be. So I'll check on these guys in probably about 4 weeks, just kind of depending what they look like in the interim, and we'll see how long it takes for these guys to get down to weight. Shouldn't be too long. So we've had about a month and a half in the curing chamber, and these guys are down, depending on the actual tenderloin, somewhere between 45 to 50% weight loss, which is awesome. Took very little time, and I guess a large part of that is just because of how small these were to begin with. It was just easier for them to lose weight quickly. So what I'm going to do is just let them equalize. So I'm going to fire them into just a Ziploc bag, get them in the fridge, give them 1.5 to 2 weeks, just so that it should be, the moisture should be a little bit more even throughout, and then it will be time to slice. All right, so after this actually had a couple of months sitting in the vacuum seal bags, I think probably a minimum of 2 weeks would have been appropriate for them just because of the slight case hardening that had occurred on them. But now it's time to slice them up and test them out here. You can see I did a little taste testing on this one already, but this is just using my Vanco slicer. I've got it set up pretty thinly. I'm looking at around 1 mil slices on this. Just ripping them off here. We can just do a little taste test on these and see. So this is the Portuguese one that we did. It's awesome. It's awesome. It has all those flavors I was looking for. The red one, we've got the paprika, we've got garlic, all that great flavor. And the actual texture of the pork loin worked really well for charcuterie. Extremely pleased with that one. I'm going to pop that aside. Just going to move these slices off to a little plate here, and we can try some other ones here in just a second. All right, so this is the mustard one here. I'm just going to peel that casing off of it and get it going here. See what it's sliced up. My daughter's playing with some toys in the background there. All right. Looking for mustard. You know, I'd say there's a little bit there, not a whole lot. I don't know if the mustard as a concept was necessarily the sweetest play. Tastes really good, but again, it doesn't scream mustard at me. So really good flavor, but I couldn't like try to market it as a mustard pork loin. All right, this is why we do those experiments. Okay, now next we've got the tandoori. Pop this out. We get it out of the casing here. Definitely has that tandoori color to it, and that seasoning. And let's see how it comes out here. All right, so we will see how the tandoori turned out here. Oh man, yeah, the color way more red than the others, so it definitely took on the color here. You see that? Taste test. Actually, that turned out really well. Totally tandoori masala. I love it. I would absolutely do that one again. I'd be tempted maybe up the tandoori just a little bit and try to get a little bit more heat in there, and it would be fabulous. Okay, excellent first crack at the tandoori though. Love it. So just get those onto there. And we will try our last one, which is that one that I was going for like a hot. Just hot is what we were going for with this. So let's see how that worked out. All right, so I just quickly reset there and removed the casing. And let's start slicing this up. Of course, I just lost my parchment. Started with the narrow end here. That was a bad choice. Okay, it's a little bit larger. Okay, so heat. Do we have heat? A little bit, not a lot. Not nearly as much as I was wanting it. I wanted it to be really spicy. It says a little bit of heat. Maybe if I had ate half of it, it would build enough that it would work well. But again, flavor's good, just not screaming spice at me. So I think out of these, the tandoori was for sure the most successful. I would say a close second would be the Portuguese one. The mustard and the hot one, they're good. Not quite what I was going for though. But anyway, yeah, that was a fun little experiment. Pork loins, again, great. They're super cheap. This was an extremely quick dry aging process for them. So yeah, I'll definitely do it again, particularly that tandoori one. So yeah, until next time, keep it at 11. Well, quick reevaluation here. This hot one, after having a few more slices, it's definitely giving off more heat than I first noticed. So I think that one was actually a decent success too.